Can you hear that? That's not bodywork vibrating. That's some sort of rattle in the engine, some sort of hammering in the engine. Interceptor. Hey everybody, it's Dick here. Today I'm on the Royal Enfield Himalayan. No, I'm not, but I am. I'm on the Royal Enfield Scram 411, which is a naked Himalayan. When the Himalayan first came out, I thought there were some very interesting design elements to it, that the frame and the windshield and the clocks and a couple of choices that made it very practical, I suppose, detracted from the design elements that drew me to the bike. And there seems to be a very design-oriented priority being set by Royal Enfield as late. And they've gotten the clay modelers out instead of the CAD modelers. I'm sure CAD is still used to a certain respect. But there's lots of stuff online about them carving clay models out of full-size concepts that is feeding through into their production. And that's a welcome reality in the Whistles household, because the design elements that drew me to the Himalayan are highlighted and featured on this Himalayan version of the Scram. They have these kind of weird things here that remind me of the vents on the CB650R, the neo-classic or neo-retro Honda. But I think you can take those off. I'm not really sure why they're there. I think there's an oil cooler on one side that it kind of hides or protects. And they put them on both sides so it's not asymmetric, but I think you could lose those. But no, they're not terrible. I'm not put off by them. I just hate detritus, especially on a bike, especially on a bike where you're shaving things off it. Why add things onto it? Huh. I'm gonna go back that way. Anyway, the Scram is a single-cylinder 400, 398 cc, 411 cc, whatever the hell that is. Just around 400 cc single-cylinder. It's been celebrated around the world, the Himalayan, as a accessible, comfortable, affordable, do-all workhorse. And I agree with all of that. I'm a Himalayan fan. Other than some economy parts, I won't say cheap parts, economy parts that have broken off for various riders in various experiences. And I think I'd say those experiences have been testing the limits of what the Himalayan could do. Yeah, I'm a fan of the Himalayan. Talking about the performance specs and I'll mention them, but talking about the Himalayan, or regurgitating, I should say, what the Himalayan is, would be a disservice to this video. It's not a high-performance motorcycle, though if you can put up with the rattling and the hammering and the agricultural sounds that this engine puts out, and kind of in protest It puts out these noises in protest. It doesn't. It's not fun. It's a single, so it engine brakes well. It's a Royal Enfield single, so it doesn't rev particularly high. I'm pinned right now. But it's spirited for a 400cc. It's more spirited than some other 400s I've been on. I do like the naked aesthetic of this bike. I like the clocks. I like the slope of the handlebars. I like this black sprayed, I won't call it powder coated, but this textured black sprayed paint. The controls they don't feel cheap. They're kind of on par with Honda or Yamaha these days. Earlier Royal Enfields would feel cheap or cheaper. The geometry is perfect. The seat is so comfortable. The seat has been upgraded, I think, from the Himalayan. I think they realized that the seat is as much a part of the design aesthetic as the rest of it, and it definitely looks like a higher quality seat than past Himalayans I've been on. I like the matte finish of the paint. I like the color scheme. I like the big partial logo graphics that remind me of Suzuki's or the old NBA baseball caps that were out in the early 2000s. I can't complain about what this bike looks like. It turned my head when I first saw it at the DGR in London this year. Some bird was riding one. It doesn't look small. It actually feels more formidable in the Scram iteration than in the Himalayan iteration. It feels more off-roady or more doable. Like this would be a better off-road bike than the Himalayan. Less things to break or snap. I think a good set of engine bars on this and maybe some hand guards. I'd be more willing to take this off-road. I like it in these zippy little lanes. I haven't changed the gear in a while, so I'm not pushing through the gears as much as I thought I would with a small displacement bike. It's vibey. I got a lot of vibrations at high revs, mid to high revs, in my ass particularly. I don't feel it in my hands as much, but I do see it in the mirrors. The mirrors are as useful or useless, depending on your persuasion, as my Classic 500. I don't feel a lot of vibration in my foot pegs. Just right in the bullseye of my sphincter, I'm getting a little added value, we should say. If I had a vagina, I would enjoy this ride very much with all these vibrations. Ooh, I have another gear. I've been keeping it, let's see. Ooh, 2 more gears. I don't know what gear I was in. Oh, I have a gear selector. Haha! I was in 3rd gear barreling through these roads. Now I'm in 5th gear, and flying into these turns in 5th gear, I kind of feel like I'm riding in neutral, and I feel really underpowered going up this hill. I hate that term underpowered, because it's not underpowered. It's powered for exactly what it's designed to be, but it's struggling up this hill. But you can run through the gears. Royal Enfields have great torque in the low revs, so I wouldn't rule out just dropping a gear and using that low torque. It's an active ride. You have to be aware. I'm a little nervous with the suspension flying into these turns. I feel it's a bit splashy, but I am having a ball riding this motorcycle on these roads. Let's talk about wind, since this is a Himalayan without a windshield. It's fine. It's a naked bike. I prefer riding naked bikes. Ooh, flew into that too fast, but that rear brakes was adequate. It's got disc brakes front and rear, these kind of Indian Brembo thingies, and that felt fine. The wind is fine. It's right into your chest. You've got zero buffeting on your helmet. and it doesn't go so fast that you feel like the wind in your chest is stronger than the speed you're traveling at. So you're not kind of holding on. I'm very comfortable with my bent elbows, and I'm not fighting against this wind. It's actually one of the joys of riding a motorcycle, is feeling the wind on you, and this is a comfortable wind. It's not negligible. There's definitely, you can probably hear it coming into my helmet, but it's not coming up into my helmet. It's just hitting me like a wind sail on my chest, but it's very pleasant. It's a pleasant ride. They can't get over how comfortable this seat is. The seat is so much more comfortable than a lot of motorcycles I've ridden lately. I'd say the seat is definitely more comfortable than a Yamaha seat. It's more comfortable than my Honda CRF seat, and I have an upgraded seat. It's probably more comfortable than the Street Cup. Yeah, I'm pleased with that seat. Let's see about engine braking on this hill. Nice engine braking. Third gear. Probably 6,000-7,000 RPM. Maybe pinned 60 miles an hour. The engine's making protest noises, but it doesn't feel like it's losing any ground. $62 miles an hour uphill. Still third gear. Got some vibes in the handlebars now. I'm definitely still remaining in the seat. Ooh, what was that? Ah. I got a hesitation. I got a power cut there. I wonder if that was a red line limiter of some sort. Got some hesitation at the top of that hill, 62 miles an hour. The bike cut out. That was interesting. Fourth gear, probably about 5,000 RPM, 60 miles an hour. I got a little bit of vibration in the foot pegs at 62 miles an hour, probably 5,500 RPM. I'm guessing the RPMs. Brakes are adequate. Suspension's very splashy. The suspension is a bit too... I don't know if it's not soft, it's just wooden. It's not uncomfortable, it's not stiff. I say wooden, and maybe wooden's the wrong term. Wooden implies that it's stiff. It's not stiff, it's splashy. Let's just call it splashy. It's not firm. It's not sticky. I don't feel stuck to the road. I feel like, I don't know. There's a lot of action at the wheels. I don't like that. It's probably 4,500 RPM maybe. 50 miles an hour. Third gear. I get that hammering noise, like a jackhammering noise, but mixed with a rattle, like nuts and bolts in a tin can. I hate the name Scram. It sounds like some sort of shitty American breakfast at like a Denny's. I'll have a plate of Scram and some home fries and some hash browns, some Scram. Bubba. We got an order to scram out here? Look, there's that hammering noise. You hear that? Bubba! That's Bubba scrambling the eggs for the scram. Some scram and some grits. The scram. You don't want to call a scrambler because one, Triumph has a scrambler and Ducati has a scrambler. And this isn't exactly a scrambler because these days a scrambler means high exhaust, and that exhaust is down below your rear foot peg. So I don't know. It's Royal Enfield has done a good job in making some unique motorcycles that have set them apart, but then they are anchored to this kind of wannabe. We're as good as you, or we're not as good as you, but we're going to use you as a stepping stone, and we want to be associated with you, but get the people who can't afford you. And so like names like Scram is just, I know it's a bit silly. So I'm having a blast on these roads no matter what it's called. Should have just called it the Himalayan, the 411. The Himi 411. All right. They call it a scram. For my height, where's the brake? Okay, the brake is set the brake pedal is set a little low for off-roading, so I'm hanging off the foot peg, trying to find the brake pedal. But if I adjust that brake pedal up, the height of the I've arrived at someone's house. So if I adjust that brake pedal, the handlebar height and the foot peg positioning is fine. I've always had a good time doing off-roading on Himalayans, and this actually feels a bit less cumbersome. Suspension's fine for these little roly-poly ruts. There's not long suspension, and there's not a lot of, because I can't get that foot brake pedal, I'm using the front brake stupidly. But this feels less cumbersome than a Himalayan on this rough stuff. Yeah, I'd green lane one of these. I'd definitely green lane one of these down in England on the stuff that Radar and I do. On the stuff that the Welshmen bring me on, probably not. But maybe on those logging roads, that would be quite fun. But definitely not on the rockier stuff. Yeah, I think this bike is pretty cool. I don't know. If the Himalayan hasn't put off a lot of people to looking at this with new or fresh eyes, and not just assuming that it's the Himalayan. I'm a big proponent of geometry and styling improving motorcycles that are disregarded. And I did not disregard the Himalayan. I think the Himalayan's a great bike, but I think this is a better bike, a better version of the Himalayan. And if you're willing to work those gears on these B roads, it'll ride 60, it'll ride 70, and it doesn't feel like it's coming apart at the seams. It just kind of complains a little at the high revs. When you're in the market for a motorcycle, it comes down to one question: would I buy it? And I think this is about 4,700 quid, if I'm not mistaken, and that's with the bump we've seen with inflation and cost of living increases. It used to be that under 4 grand was the sweet spot for low displacement motorcycles. And now I think it's like under 5 grand because everything's gone up 1,000 pounds or more. If this was 4,500 bucks, it's a bargain. I'd buy one. And now I don't have to buy a Himalayan and take all the shit off of it. They've done it for me. I'd peel that Scram sticker off though.
If you like that video and you want to see more like them, hit like, share, and subscribe.